We're ready to go.
Thank you. Recorders are running.
All right. Thank you, Paul. Appreciate it. Well, welcome to the May Outdoor Adventure Commission. We're happy to have everybody here. Those that are, we have some participating online and some in person, but we have a quorum, so we're going to go ahead and get started. Thank you for coming. I'd like to extend a welcome to our new commissioner, Greg Jensen. Greg, can you introduce yourself? Give us a little overview of who you are. Thanks.
My name is Greg Jensen. I am a commissioner for Superior County. I'm my fourth year of that seat and running unopposed for a second term. I have lived in Sevier Valley for 30 years. I have an insurance agency, an independent agency that I've run for almost 40 years. I have a wonderful wife, 3 daughters, 3 son-in-laws, and 3 grandchildren.
All right. Well, we're happy to have you. Thank you. Okay, then we'll go to approval of the minutes. Somebody like to make that motion?
I'd be happy to make the motion to approve the minutes.
Okay. All right. The motion is that we approve the minutes of that were sent out Friday, May 1st from our last meeting. Was that November meeting? All in favor say aye.
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 All right. That passes. Okay, we'll move to agenda item number 3, our recreation participation trend study update. Jeremy Sage and Jake Jorgenson. Go ahead whenever you're ready.
All right, great. Thanks, everybody. Hopefully you can hear me. My screen is lighting up, so that's a good sign. Thanks for having us, and thanks for your support of this project, too. We wanted to take a few minutes to update you on where this project is, where it's been, and where it's going over the course of the remainder of this year and early into 2027. So just a little bit of introduction of RC. If we can scroll to the next slide, just for those of you that might be not familiar with us, we are an outdoor recreation and social science market research firm. We've been doing research in the outdoor rec industry and tourism industry for the last 40 plus years. We do a lot of work there in Utah with Ski Utah and understanding where the ski industry is in Utah, as well as nationwide with the ski industry, the national parks across the country, and other states and communities across the country as well in the outdoor recreation and tourism space. So it's been a great opportunity for us to dive even further into Utah and in this effort here. We look forward to continuing that with Carly, Jason, and company there in outdoor rec. So if we can go on to the next slide, please. And just to give you an overview, for those of you that may not recall what motivated this study, and for those of you that are new to this commission, we were charged with trying to understand, and the goal was to really understand how vital outdoor recreation is to the Utah economy, with the recognition that it is vital, and helping the Vision of Outdoor Rec understand what has gone on, what is going on, and what are those shifts that are occurring in outdoor recreation, and how does that change participation patterns, whether that be seasonally, daily, by activity type, within counties, in regions, and throughout the state, and understanding kind of what are those key trends that are out there. Some of these examples of what's happened recently is, the emergence in the last decade or so of e-biking and the opportunities and challenges that e-bikes create, as well as we saw lots of alteration in who and how much and where people recreate during the COVID-19 pandemic. We have other population changes that have gone on as well that really facilitate change in outdoor recreation, that we really want to be ahead of the game, and how do we understand what is going on and how to measure that, and measure it in a consistent data-driven method that's out there, such that we can be comparable across locations, across regions, across activities. And we want to take this effort, not an effort to just start from ground zero and build up, but an effort really to build on past planning efforts that have gone on, whether that be through various land managers there in Utah, or via academic or other consulting partners that are out there as well. I know Utah State has done a lot of work in this realm. We really want to build off those efforts to make sure they come to full fruition and what their intent was and the opportunities to learn and grow from them are. So if we go on to the next slide there, our goals and understanding in doing this is really to understand what those participation patterns are and help to identify those emerging trends. And really what those goals then allow us to do is really assess the economic and social and health impacts that are out there. We know beyond just being a major industry and economic driver, the outdoor recreation industry provides a great space for understanding quality of life for residents across Utah. Across the West, really, we've seen that emergence of people moving to places, people locating their businesses in places as a direct result of the perceived quality of life that's available there. And we do have real measures of those quality of life outcomes because of access and opportunity for outdoor recreation. So it becomes more and more important, both economically, socially, and for our own individual and community health as well. So being able to stay on the forefront of what is emerging and growing from the outdoor rec opportunity is really a key need for Utah, as well as other states that have significant outdoor rec industries. And really what we want to do is there on point 4 is really trying to develop those actual recommendations from this effort here. We don't want to just do this as an academic exercise, but we want to have opportunities for you all and partners across Utah to be able to put these into action based on reliable and consistent numbers that we can compare across each county, across each region out there in Utah. We go on to the next slide and kind of gets into what it is we're trying to do in this effort here. And we want to make, as I mentioned, a consistent, standardized recreation measurement framework. So we know that the National Park Service has its method of counting visitors, understanding what's going on in the national parks in terms of their activities and volume of engagement. The Forest Service has their volume, their effort. The BLM has theirs. State Parks has theirs. Local communities has theirs. Not all these pieces of recreation measurements and participation match up succinctly with one another, which creates challenges when we're trying to weigh out the volume and level and diversity and seasonality of all these activities. So a key piece of our goal is to integrate all these administrative data and observational data and build a centralized Utah-based recreation data repository that allows us to translate from one entity to another and have consistent measurements that are out there. Not only do we want to bring in those historic methods, but we also want to be able to identify gaps in measurement that currently exist. And so we are piloting a handful of collection methodologies that we'll get to in just a second to help us fill those gaps, both in terms of this pilot effort, and then that puts us on a strong foot forward to continue this data collection process in addition to these other existing administrative and observational data that are out there, to continue to really build a really robust set of data for Utah to understand how these participation trends, how they're experienced in Utah and how they're evolving and adapting in Utah too as we go forward over the course of the next decade plus.
And I think just to reiterate, this is something that a lot of agencies have been doing, is really putting the emphasis on understanding participation trends, especially in the West, because as Jeremy noted, there's been a lot of change in outdoor recreation participation, and trying to get on top of trends is something that's always been challenging. But I think Utah is actually one of the first states that are really taking a comprehensive look across the entire state on how participation levels change. And that's something I think that you all are kind of being one of the leaders on right now at a state level, because there's just has not been the attention paid to that until now.
Yeah, and not only at the state level too, but also nationally, the federal agencies, federal agency land managers are now over the last year being tasked with understanding on an activity level what the participation looks like as an output of the Explore Act that's there. So really not just counting visitors that are coming in through the gates, but also understanding what those visitors that are coming in, what it is that they are really doing on an activity by activity basis. So this opportunity here is really, like Jake said, putting Utah on the front burner of that and being ahead of the game in understanding these recreation trends. So our overall goal, one key piece of this is that standard definitions and documentation of that, so we can align each of these data sets up to be able to compare apples to apples rather than where we currently sit, where Forest Service data doesn't really match with what the measurement is for national parks, doesn't fully match with what state parks has. And we're not going to go in and say, Forest Service, change your measurements, but this allows Utah to be able to code and read in between the lines of what's going on in each of these measurements that are there. And then this output will create that scheme for that recreation data repository for all of Utah's recreation opportunities. So if we can go on to the next slide, please. Oh, sorry, next one again. And so where we are going next and what we are starting up in this later this month in early June is we'll be looking at 5 different pilot sites that we will be collecting data on. We'll be collecting this data in a handful of mechanisms. One will be pulling in data that's already existing, if and when it does exist. And that would be trail counters, parking counts, boat ramp counters, any of those things that give us a count of those individuals or groups that are entering a site. And the goal with this is to test these methods across a diversity of recreation types across the state. So we're pulling in those that maybe really made up of dispersed recreation across a large landscape. It may be a smaller landscape with much higher level of activity and use, really dense, potentially even some might consider crowded spaces on there, pulling in water-based recreation to test how these potential methods may be able to be applied across a diversity of recreation types, locations. So a key piece of this will then also be intercept-based surveys. So understanding not just what that count of people is coming into the location, but also what it is that they are doing while they're on site, which gets us really to the heart of participation. And so those on-site surveys will be conducted over a roughly 10-day period at each of these locations to give us a good idea of what these visitors are doing. And we will overlay both those first 2 bullets with mobile location data, so cell phone-based data for those of you that are unaware. Jake, do you want to give a snippet of what mobile location data is for us?
Yeah, so if you've never seen mobile location data, basically we're able to gather anonymous cell phone data from people in parks. And this data has been used in other industries for a long time, but the park and rec field is more new to it. But we have our own data set that we use, but also we'll be leaning a little bit on the Utah Office of Tourism as well, because they've given us a bit of a demo on some of the work that they've done with it. But essentially what we're able to do is look at across a park, and especially at these pilot sites, where people are going in the park, what's kind of the level of density of use. So if you see a single trailhead or a single location that shows up with really dense congestion, we can use our surveys and some of these other data sets to kind of cross-validate what we're seeing. So it gives us the ability to kind of look back in time and understand how people are moving around a site, but also where they come from. Cell phone location data, because it's being collected 24/7, 365, the big data warehouses that collect this on a large scale are able to understand the town that people visit. So you can look at local versus in-state, out-of-state trends to see how people are using a site differently. So we'll be using that in conjunction with intercept surveys, plus these other counts that already exist. Like Jeremy mentioned, if there's trail counters or parking lot counts, as well as any kind of permit data. And we try to take these different methods of data together to kind of triangulate what participation looks like at a site.
Great. And then if we go to the next slide, we can go over just quickly what these 5 pilot sites are that we worked with a handful of partners across the state of Utah, both in terms of Forest Service folks, BLM folks, state park folks, tourism, and of course the folks that are at the Division of Outdoor Rec, to identify a set of 5 sites that give us a nice cross-section of recreation opportunities, potentially recreation challenges that exist out there across Utah. So the first one that we are looking to be at will be out in late May to early June. This will be the Valley of the Gods area there in southeastern Utah, with a primary recreation type of motorized recreation. We see this as a really remote scenic landscape, which sometimes can create challenges for surveying, but also we have some unique opportunities to get in and not only survey and capture what we can, but also utilize that mobility-based data to capture those locations where we might not be able to get into a survey and understand what that broader volume is and understand how these methods might work for low volume usage across a wide swath of area to understand that capacity there. So that's our first one that will be in late May, early June. And if we go to our next slide, we will have a very different piece of Utah property there in Sand Hollow Reservoir down there in southern Utah with motorized, non-motorized water use. We see this as a very high demand type space. A lot of supply built up around that with the large boat launch parking areas and amenities that are there on site. And so this gives us a chance to test out these methods with a really concentrated use location that also includes water-based recreation there. And this one will be another one that we are getting to in early summer, so June of this year. So these will be our first two. And then our last three we'll do is we'll get through the peak of summer and get into more late summer, early fall pieces. So if we go to the next slide, and this next one that we are thinking about here is Holden Rock Road. So coming there again in southern Utah, again another mixed use, some motorized use, hiking, biking, climbing. This one on the demand side is a relatively medium. If we think about a range from Valley of the Gods up through something like a Sand Hollow, this falls more in that medium side. So it's a access corridor within the dispersed recreation based out of there. And so that gives us another site for testing these methods out. And again, this will be one that's in early fall of 2026. And then if we go to the next slide, we get into the Pavant Trail system. So we're getting into more non-motorized recreation sites up there in central Utah by Richfield there. Again, another medium use area. And really what we have here is that purpose-built trail networks with destination biking going on. So this is a one that's really have a space for non-motorized use, trail systems, and understand how, especially here, like mobility data allows us to understand those flows of visitors through and out there. Understand, are we capturing all these users at key trailheads? Are there more dispersed recreation going on that we may not be capturing? And how do we capture those in a comprehensive manner? And again, this one will be done in late summer or early fall. And then our last one is, skip ahead again, the Guardsman Pass recreation area. So a larger recreation area, a lot of opportunities there to capture a wide variety of spaces there on the central Wasatch. Big demand level here. In this space, potential areas for that demand exceeding some of the supply that is there. So understanding what those constraints might be, how the users or visitors may perceive those experiences there, given the level of supply that's available compared to that level of demand that's there. And this one again will be in that fall time period, potentially into that leaf peeping space as we get into the fall of 26 here. So those are our 5 pilot sites that we'll be using. Again, we'll be during the summer and throughout this period of time, we'll be doing our pilot sites. We'll also be collecting and assessing that data for our standardized definitions across each of these spaces and across all landscapes in Utah as well, that we can understand how to make sure we can calibrate data collection that's ongoing from all our land managers and public entities that are out there. And so if we go to the last slide here, the last 2 slides. So the goal of all this effort here is really to dive in, dig deep to what we don't necessarily know right now, right? We can get counts, we can pull up mobility data and see where people are going on site, where they're coming from, but we don't know a lot of their perspectives, their perceptions of those sites. So what we want to do through the development of these surveys is to really capture behavioral patterns, understanding what it is they're doing, when they're doing it, how they may perceive the conditions on the ground, that can help us understand better what's going on with that count data. So not only will we be doing these on-site intercept surveys, but we're also conducting a panel-based online survey that will be distributed to a set of Utah residents as well as a set of visitors to Utah that have been there and experienced the outdoor recreation spaces over the course of the last 2 years, to get us a general perspective of who is doing what in Utah, and what kinds of landscapes, and using what kinds of equipment, whether that be e-bikes or mountain bikes, road bikes, skis, whatever those cases may be, to pull all these pieces together. And like Jake mentioned earlier, thinking about how we are able to triangulate the information that we're collected via these various portals of information coming in from surveys, from counts, from administrative data, from mobility data. So if we can go back to the next slide or forward. So just to reiterate what our goals were here, and these are our outcomes, really to understand what these trends are as they exist on the ground in Utah, really put us at that front step of how do we understand these? How do we be prepared for changing dynamics as much as we can in how and when and where spaces are used across Utah? That in a nutshell is where we're at with this project. Hope to be able to come back in later fall, early winter to give an update on how these five case studies have unfolded and how this fits into what our final outcomes might look like. Not sure if we want to take any questions on that or.
All right. Yeah, thank you for your presentation. Are there any questions from any of the commissioners? Anybody? Do we have any? Oh, go ahead, Natalie.
Thanks. Well, first off, we've worked with RRC before, so with the Office of Tourism. I don't know, Jeremy, if you can see me.
Oh,
And
hi,
Jake,
Natalie.
but great partners, and we always respect the knowledge that they bring to our state, especially with sharing this information, and they've done it regionally as well. A question that I have that we always navigate with tourism is forward-facing information, and how do we forecast for future trends? I don't know if that's something that you all are considering with this data set, and how you can think of a methodology for thinking about that, because we're always looking to predict for the future as we're thinking about planning for our outdoor recreation experiences and visitor experiences. I don't know if there's anything in this study that covers that as well.
I think naturally the goal of this study is to have something that's reproducible, like by the state, to be able to define other areas. And I think the general reason why we picked the categories that we've used to define areas, one, Utah State had developed those in their previous planning effort. But the idea would be, like, if you have a site that is very high demand and high supply, what can you expect in terms of some of the trends and participation challenges you might see at it? So the idea is be able to categorize sites kind of broadly, but then over time, conduct research on a regular basis to try to understand how trends have shifted. So I think our goal is to make sure that there can be some forward looking. There are always, as you know, there's things you can't predict, especially as technology changes and stuff like that. But the idea is to have something that you can be used moving forward well in the future.
Right. A key piece of what we want to talk about with the potential respondents on the survey too is understanding what happens when they get to a site and that site is overcrowded. They can't park there. They can't recreate there, or they don't want to recreate there. What does that spillover look like? So we understand kind of what that displacement pressures are. So as we understand displacement pressures at one site, we understand the potential spillover to other sites, and could be adequately prepared for what those look like as a recreation area becomes more popular.
All right, thank you. All right, any other questions from the commissioners? All
Looks
right.
like there's someone with their hand up online.
Is there someone online?
Yeah, this is Commissioner Taylor. Hey, I'm interested in, especially the Hole in the Rock Road. Tell me again how you collect this data. Hole in the Rock Road is home to me. I'm excited about finding this information, but how do you go about collecting that?
So the way the idea is that each site has some similarities, but also just some differences based on kind of what the site is designed like. And Hole in the Rock Road is a unique one, where what we're going to be doing in Hole in the Rock Road is, as people are entering the road, starting to kind of start their journey, is we're going to try to survey them on site with people on the ground. Sometimes we will also be roaming to where, if people are camping or they're at trailheads, we'll be able to look for locations where people congregate, and we'll have tablets. Our surveyors will be on ground with tablets in their hand that has a survey on it, and they'll be asking them. It's usually like a 5 to 7 minute survey, asking them questions while they're on site. But for some areas, especially the remote areas, we also may leave QR codes on signs after the fact, so that if someone is visiting there, but we just didn't have someone on the ground. We can have a sign that says, hey, take this survey about your experience. They can scan it on their phone and take it. We prefer to have someone on the ground actually doing the surveys because there's only certain types of people that want to scan something and do it, where a surveyor can talk to anybody. But that's why we've built these different types of data collection what we don't get from surveys, or we can't be on the ground at all times. We'll use that cell phone data to try to understand patterns across seasons and apply that together. So I think for some places it's easier to talk to folks who are on the ground recreating. For others, you got to be a little more creative, and we're trying to kind of take that flexibility into account for every site.
Thank you.
Okay, anybody else online have any more questions for him? All right. Thank you, Jeremy and Jake. We appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you all.
Thank you all. Yeah.
All right, we'll move to our next agenda item. Director Curry, Jason Curry, is going to give us an update of the legislative session. Go ahead, Jason.
Set up for something else and we can't change it. So thanks, Jeremy and Jake. We've got a lot of excitement building for that study. It'll, I think, provide a lot of clarity and a lot of information for us as a division in our decision making, but also all of our partners, state agencies, tourism, state parks, our federal land managing agencies, national parks, Forest Service, county government, and everything in between. We hope to have a dashboard available that will help just build confidence in the decision-making process, whether that's in funding or in policy making or what have you when it comes to outdoor recreation. So super excited about that. So here's a quick, I'm going to emphasize quick because many of you are following things, and certainly if you have any questions as I gloss over, please bring those up. HB 12. Outdoor recreation accessibility amendments. That was Representative Doug Welton. In our current language for grants, it's pretty limited on the type of equipment that we could have eligible for a grant application. So there is a definition change where adaptive equipment that could be typically categorized in with other equipment in an unintended way is now considered infrastructure. So just like a wheelchair ramp would be clearly infrastructure, so is a specialized access chair considered as infrastructure when it comes to grant applications. So something we felt like was really going to help bring greater access, especially for our adaptive community that rely on special tools. Many of them don't have their own special tools, but in a place like a state park or literally anywhere else, that if the entity operating that recreation site wanted to have adaptive equipment as part of the offerings, they could apply for a grant and have it be eligible under the infrastructure definition. HB 30 was kind of a hot topic even 2 sessions ago when we saw the bill that made it so if you wanted to go onto a wildlife management area in certain counties, you had to have a hunting and fishing license. And during the session, it didn't really get a lot of attention, but after it passed, it really immediately got a lot of attention, especially once they started posting people at these intersections and entrances onto WMAs for trail runners, mountain bikers, and the Timpanogos WMA down by Alpine was certainly high profile. And then during the interim, there was a really good resolution and cooperative effort between Representative Schallenberger and others that were interested, including the Division of Wildlife Resources, to come up with a process for individuals who maybe they won't ever have a hunting and fishing license, but a mechanism for them to both recreate on wildlife management areas, but also to contribute monetarily. And so I think it turned out really good. We're excited to be able to help solve a problem and continue to be able to recreate on WMAs, especially because they plan to roll out more WMAs that are limited in this way. But overall, I think it's gonna work well. HB 54 boating amendments. This is one a little bit similar to back in 2023 when we implemented our off-highway vehicle adult education course. This is going to be a boating education course, and just like HB 180, which was the OHV adult ed course, it was driven by the community. OHV advocates and riders were the ones that pushed for this, wanted this, helped craft it, and it's the same thing. It's not something necessarily that the division was trying to push, but members of the community and the boating community came before interim, and it was an interim study item, then evolved into a committee bill, and now we have HB 54, which is going to require, in order for any adult to operate a boat, or actually any eligible or legal boat operator would have to obtain a certification that they know the basics, kind of the rules of the water, so to speak, when it comes to right-of-way, speed and proximity, what the buoys mean from a public safety standpoint. HB 381, that one was pretty high profile with e-bike law, and that was Representative Cutler clarifying some definitions and further refining definitions on what types of e-bikes are allowed in certain areas, especially in city. It doesn't have a lot to do with natural surface trails that we primarily deal with, but a lot of communities and law enforcement have been dealing with significant problems when it comes to young people on electric devices. And that's everything from your class 1 e-bike, which is fairly low profile, all the way up to and including major powerful electric motorcycles like the Surons and things like that been in the news a lot and unfortunately caused some injuries and some harm. So he did it in a way I think that was really good to not discourage their use and not discourage kids from being on equipment like that, but to provide a little bit of structure and a little bit of safety, and kind of along the lines of the boating safety education, to provide some education for those younger riders who are allowed to ride an e-bike out there in traffic, but require them to take a training so that they know kind of the rules of the road, and we don't have unfortunate accidents like we've had so far. It's been interesting. I've heard a lot of good feedback from cities. Let's see.
Jason, can I ask you a question about that one?
Yeah, sure.
So I believe that one goes into effect on May 6th, and there's a training component part of it. And I think your office will be crafting that training.
Well, the training will be crafted by the Department of Public Safety. We are helping them since we kind of had experience with HB 180 and the off-highway vehicle training. We're consulting and helping the Department of Public Safety as they are the ones that will be administering it. Good question.
I think that one has is going to need to have a really great nexus between, in particular, cities and the state. With our early spring this year, we've seen just a tremendous rise of all kinds of e-bike and e-motorcycle usage in our city, and I almost wish this bill had an earlier effective date, because
I do too.
We could have used it 2 months ago. But I think we're going to need help with a coordinated plan to push the training and things like that out to parents or kids that are getting some type of a warning because they haven't completed it, or they're not wearing a helmet, or different things, in making sure we have good connection on pointing people back to the training. So to the extent that the League of Cities and Towns could be helpful in setting that out, or cities can be setting it out.
I know that I talked to Representative Cutler a couple of weeks ago about HB 381 and implementation. I know he's gotten a lot of communication from cities and from rental groups, people that rent e-bikes and e-motorcycles. He's got a lot of good input going. So I'm pretty confident the process will involve some heavy consultation from local government, cities and towns.
Thank you.
If not, let me know. I'll put the word in. Let's see. I'm not going to go over that one. And then HB 567, Outdoor Recreation Infrastructure Grant Program. This is just opened, again, broadened another definition of infrastructure to include something along the lines of algae bloom treatments in recreation areas. So if an algae bloom treatment is causing it so that people can't recreate in an area, then the grant and the fund, the infrastructure, or the adventure fund could potentially fund a project like that. So there was an RFA that funded a couple of algae mitigation projects, one at Willard and one at Manaway. Let's see. There's a little bit more on this. Full transparency, this is the first time I've seen these slides. I tried to pull them up several times today and could not get it to work. So, this will be available obviously to you in the meeting materials. Is this next? Okay.
Jason, correct me if I'm wrong, but it's my understanding from HB 381 that basically. Sorry. Thanks, Carly. My understanding from 381 is essentially, as of tomorrow, or Wednesday, sorry, May 6th, that no individual under the age of 15 can ride outside of their parents' line of sight.
Unless they have.
Unless they have a training which hasn't been developed yet.
Correct.
Okay.
Yep.
Because I know my local police department has been out letting people know in a very friendly way that they will be less friendly on Thursday.
Okay. That's a good thing.
But
I
again,
think there will be a
for,
process.
Like, a knowledge 15 and under is essentially illegal without a parent starting Wednesday.
So starting Wednesday, we won't see any of those kids on there.
No.
No, I saw two of them this morning on my way into the office. I was cussing at them under my breath and then realized, I know that one. I'm going to talk to his dad when I get back in contact.
Hey, just clarifying question. That's any vehicle over 20 miles an hour, is that correct?
Now we're getting into details that I'm
Electric,
going to have to consult actual text on.
unassisted, non-pedal assisted, I think.
So yes, anything, because there's the different class of e-bikes. The lowest class is pedal assist up to 20 miles an hour. And then it goes up from there. And there is a power rating as well, which is getting quickly outdated based on the size of the motors that are coming in these.
I can give you some bullet points on that one if you want. Representative Cutler sent those to me the other day. He's the author of the bill. It says it directs the Department of Public Safety to develop an online personal electric vehicle safety education and training program. Ages 8 to 15, it allows independent use of any e-bike class on public roads with a DPS safety certificate or supervised use without a certificate. So, age 16 or older and older allows e-bike use on public roads with no safety certificate, supervision, or driver's license required. Establishes a helmet requirement for e-bike and e-scooter riders under 21 when riding on public roads, not paths. Does not apply to rideshare. Fines for not wearing a helmet are capped at $25 per violation. And it clarifies distinctions between e-bikes, high-power electric devices, and e-motorcycles, and updates marketing and labeling rules for these devices and provides clear enforcement authority. So it's kind of an overview on there.
Yeah, and it's extremely nuanced. There's a lot of small details, including the types of e-bikes that you can actually change from class 1 to 2 to 3 with just the settings. It's probably going to be much the same as it has been in the past. Law enforcement's going to be doing their best, but the effective date on the delivery for the course isn't until May 5th of 2027. So again, it's not a recreation-centered bill. It's highly transportation-oriented and public safety-oriented. We're helping consult on it. But yeah, as long as they're on the sidewalk, I think they're probably going to be okay. But once they get it out into the street, different cities and towns are going to probably have a tough time over the next 9 to 12 months. Okay, any questions?
I have one quick one, just back to the OHV and boat safety course. Once you pass those, what's the expiration, or how often do you have to redo that?
Good question. So we asked for, similar to how the OHV adult education course is once in a lifetime, which we thought made sense, but that is not how this bill turned out. It is every year it has to be done again. But the commitment is that it will be made in a way that can basically be tested out of. So should be fairly minimal in terms of the time needed to basically clap out of your training.
Yeah, a little update on that as well. From what I remember of the bill, Representative Mike Peterson ran that bill, and he's a boater, and he hated spending all the time doing all the muscle certification every year and everything. He didn't want to add to it, so the compromise was to be able to do all of those together in, I think, under or at that same time, so it wouldn't add more time to the certification. So it's just putting more information, the need to know information inside that one training that they are already required to do anyway.
Yep. All right, any other questions on the bills? It was a good session, but glad it's over. I haven't thought about it in a while, which is good.
It is good to be over some with that sometimes. All right, we'll move to our next item on the agenda item number 5. We're going to have our Division of Outdoor Recreation staff do some presentations. We've got Patrick Morrison will be up first.
Great.
Go ahead, Patrick.
Thank you, Chair. Well, first off, thank you. We finished legislative session, which for us means it's Outdoor Rec Initiative session, if you will. So I think I just kind of wanted to walk you through just a little bit about kind of recapping last year, some lessons learned, and then kind of what we're planning for this year. Am I in control slides here? Oh. I think it's my first time using one of these. So I guess going back, this commission, the first thing we really did as part of this commission was the Outdoor Recreation Strategic Plan. And so that is still just the guiding force behind the Outdoor Recreation Initiative. The mission is to deliver the Utah Strategic Outdoor Recreation Plan. And I think we're all pretty familiar with this. But some of the steps we're going to take this year, I think, are going to fold much more aggressively into some of the things that we're talking about within the strategic plan that I'm very excited about. Just looking at last year, if you remember, we had 51 project submissions across 5 regions. We had $55 million in requests. You can just see some of the project types and how those requests shook out by region. In the end, I don't expect you all to be able to read this. I just kind of wanted to show you, but just to kind of break it out, we did get to split the funding out pretty well. In the end, we saw Wasatch Front with 4.9, Southwest with 3.5, the Central region with 4, Eastern with 3, Northern with 2.6, and then we had the DOR priority request for 2.6 million. I think it was a really successful year. We definitely learned a lot of lessons coming out of it, but there was a lot to really celebrate. And that's kind of some of the stuff I just wanted to talk about as we look at this next. I keep wanting to do this in time with the clicks, but there we go. Okay, so this is some of the stuff I wanted to look at. So the success is clearly $21 million awarded to 38 projects, huge success. And so let me just say thank you to this commission for supporting this program, for your engagement with it. We have Commissioner Winfield, you'll hear from a little bit, but he was also a ranking member in the Eastern region, so maybe just a thank you to the commissioner's time during that. But it was a really, really great year. We're starting to see a lot of projects starting to wrap up, just really a lot of excitement for this. One thing that we are coming out of it is trying to build our capacity. We've been able to identify a lot of capacity issues with some of our partners, a lot of the federal partners. We're working to do project management here. We're running a few design engineerings. We're helping with some NEPA. You're going to hear about a lot of the work Harley's doing with Northwash here in a moment. It's really impressive what we can do, and as we are staffing up to kind of meet some of these capacity needs. And then we're initiating the long-range planning efforts. So this is something that, this is a big investment from the legislature into outdoor recreation. We want to make sure we're being very strategic, and as part of that is laying the groundwork for long-range plans. Some of the challenges we saw last year, we had monthly meetings for 2 hours from essentially June through October. I think some of those meetings were really, really great. We did get a lot of good engagement. However, agenda building all that time, the virtual meetings, there was kind of inconsistent engagement. You always know when somebody is mic is off, camera's off, you're just like, are they there? And I was actually pretty impressed with the amount of engagement, how many people did come to all of them, particularly from our electeds who were part of the ranking. I think they took it very, very seriously. But I do feel that we missed some of that more kind of holistic, in-person, like kind of network building, trust building, some of that stuff that we got. We did see not every county was represented on some of these councils. And then, we have people kind of applying to wrong programs often. People would apply for maybe a standard like park project, something that wasn't necessarily in line. And so we learned a good amount about like how we communicate, what are our goals, and then how is kind of the structure in which we're running this program serving our goals. And so some of the opportunities that we're going to look at this upcoming year, we get greater attendance, greater connection through these in-person meetings. Want to shout out Tyler Thompson from the Watershed Restoration Initiative. I pretty much meet with him once a year just to kind of debrief the year. As we know, Watershed Restoration Initiative, a longstanding program, it's spoken with just so much respect when people talk about that program. And that's kind of one of the goals of what this program is going to be. I really want people to speak about it, how people are currently speaking about the WRI program. But we also want to figure out opportunities to connect not only the ranking council members, you commissioners, with some of where the money's actually going on the ground. We want to hold more meetings that involve site visits. And then as we are starting to develop some of the long range plans, we want them to be integrated into what are the regional priorities. We don't know what the regional priorities are because we want to work with the regions so they can help us, ascertain what are those priorities. And then we'll also look for better opportunities to create more project management capacity. So, we're looking to hire a specific role to manage some of these projects through this program, through some of the other work we're doing. So I really have a lot of excitement for this next year. So this is kind of what we're going to run the ORI program as. Our forecasts, we met with our finance director, seem pretty flat in a good way. We're looking around 21 to 22 million available for this program next year. That's consistent with what we've had the past 2 years. So meeting structure is changing. We're going to try to respond to just some of the challenges that we saw. So one, we're going to get rid of monthly virtual meetings, and we're going to pivot to in-person meetings. So what we're really looking to do is have one meeting at the start of the year, essentially like a 5-hour meeting to do a lot of like on the ground regional visioning workshop, but to identify what are the regional annual funding priorities. We want them to be able to help us. And then we're going to spend kind of that season working to solicit projects that are working with some of those priorities. I don't think it's going to be one. It's not going to just be like camping, but, hopefully we'll have a few options of like, this is really what the region's looking. Before that, of course, we'll bring in our ranking councils to just kind of get them prepared for that. But we are looking to do a site visit. This is going to be an optional one, but one where we can bring everyone together, kind of look at a program in action. I keep looking at the work that's being done in Wayne County with the Beats Lewis and the Meeks Mesa, 2 big ORI projects real close. I think it'd be really great to get a lot of our members within this program, with the commissioners out to there, hear from the project partners, just get those opportunities there. And then we'll kind of come back for the end of the year, which will be another in-person meeting. And again, to quote Tyler Thompson from the WR, he's like, if you want people to come, give them food. So we'll also be giving people food while we're doing this. But we'll do that big kind of like 5-hour, 4-hour ranking meeting where we can actually give a little bit more voice to our general councils for some of those priority, or I guess preliminary rankings. I want to make sure they have a good voice, but ultimately rest some of that authority within our ranking councils before it's brought to you as recommendations for your approval. And then that's going to be our last meeting of that one. And so I think this is what the calendar is going to look like. Those first kind of ranking, priority determining meetings are going to be in June. Midsummer, we'll do that site visit. I would love any and all of you to join us for those. October is when we'll do that final ranking meeting. And then we'll come back to you in November, I guess November 16th, 2026 for that project approval. Shout out to Morgan. She's done a great job of helping us get some of these locations. So we do have the schedule. We have places reserved. And just really, really excited to kind of use some of the awesome skills we have on staff with facilitating, with kind of leading some of these workshops. I think learning from the 2-year process of developing that strategic plan is going to be just a great kind of information bank for how we go out to these communities and try to do some of this visioning. But, the goal being the regions are going to determine their priorities. We're going to help them find those projects, and they're going to help to recommend those for your approval. Oh, June 16th, right here. And I think that's it for my slides, but I'm happy to take any questions on anything I presented before I turn it over to Emily. Okay, excellent. Well, again, just thank you. This program doesn't exist without your support. It's really a highlight so far of my professional career, so I'll keep doing my best, and I hope keep having your support. And welcome to you, Commissioner Jorgenson.
All right, thank you, Patrick.
Hi, everyone. Thanks for letting us give a little brief update about the Outdoor Rec Planning Assistance, or ORPA program. Again, this is a reminder and just kind of refresh of this program. You all allocated $2.5 million this past year to increase the funding for this. This program really aims to increase planning capacity, recreation planning capacity at the local level through awarding funds, which then the communities go and hire consulting services to, you know, kind of offload their plates. Sometimes I get people who are city recorders or administrative assistants, you know, they're not planners by trade, but this program has
Emily,
really...
will you introduce yourself and your name and what you do?
Sure.
Thank you. I think that'll help.
Yeah, I'm Emily Meadows. I'm with the Division of Outdoor Recreation. I'm the Outdoor Rec Planning statewide planner. So again, this historically, you can see here 2023 and 24, this program was really just internal staff trying to go out and help communities at the local level. In 25, we got 1.5 million allocated, and we created a grant program for it. So again, that was a huge success. I'll kind of just go to this slide to show just the recap from last year. There was over 43 applications that were submitted, totaling 4.5 million in requests. And so again, we awarded 21 of those and 1.5 million spread throughout the state. And this last picture is just, you know, the planning in action. This is up in Rich County. They're doing a trails master plan, and I've been able to, you know, go to these public events and community engagement efforts that they're really doing and putting the dollars on the ground, which is cool. Another way we're building these resources with that 2.5 million, we're in the process of creating a trails planning and design handbook, which we've went through the RFP process and we're able to select a vendor. So we'll be working with SE Group moving forward to create that resource for statewide community partners. Any questions about ORPA? It's currently open right now, and so I think it'll close in a couple weeks, on May 15th, but last I checked there were 60 applications in draft.
On this, it shows 1.5 million was paid out, and you probably said this, I missed it. I hurried and had to take a picture and scroll.
No, you're
in
good.
and read it. And so was there $1 million left over on this planning last year?
So last year we just had 1.5 million, and then we were able to increase it to 2.5 for this
Awesome.
year. Yeah, great question.
As I'm looking to see little rural towns in southern Utah, central Utah, eastern Utah, it looked like it was quite a diverse disbursement of money.
Yeah, I think the cool part about this program, it really is enabling and empowering those really small, typically rural communities that they've never even thought or dreamed of doing recreation planning. This really has enabled them to pursue it and think about how it can help give them that roadmap to then be more competitive in our other infrastructure grants, which is really exciting.
Mr. Chairman, if I could share for our newest commissioner, I had the opportunity to serve as one of the evaluators for this particular grant last year. And I think it's particularly valuable in helping tee up the types of applications you would then see later as a UR grant or an ORI grant. Communities kind of can't get to the approvals that they might need from a NEPA application or something else if they can't show a master plan or a feasibility study or those types of things. And so there's obviously challenges in small rural communities. There's challenges in small urban communities that have small professional staffs that don't always do this type of thing. And so I thought it was very meaningful and was happy to advocate when we brought this back to add additional money last year, that this program will then ensure that the applications we see in other processes for bigger grants are shovel ready and ready to go, and communities won't feel frustrated that they're denied a grant in one of those bigger programs for lack of being as you know, tight and ready as they need to be when they apply.
Thank you.
Hey, Josh.
Thank you. To follow up on what Commissioner Bradshaw was saying, is there an opportunity to identify projects that went through the ORPA program in future grant applications. That having gone through this process just gives me a higher level of confidence that the scope and estimate are better vetted, I will say, rather than less vetted, and therefore more likely to come to fruition on the current time and schedule. It's just an idea for the grant applications for those who are evaluating.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And I will speak to UORG. I believe we did include a question. Did you apply to ORPA and receive ORPA services? And so they were able to check yes or no. So we are trying to track that and see, do they go through ORPA, then are they awarded UORG, and then, the completion. So, yeah. Great. Looking forward, I'll touch on the regional long-range planning and provide a brief update again. As we mentioned a couple times, the division's really trying to develop a 10 to 15 year strategy to really provide regional long-range recreation planning throughout the entire state, giving them that roadmap, again, that's locally led and also regionally vetted, so that when they come with projects, we can refer back to the regional long-range plan and say, these are the priorities we identified in this plan. Does this align with the plan? Yes or no? It's an easy way to kind of gut check. So we've been doing the Central Region Plan as our pilot region. It's been an amazing effort. This is we've been working with SE Group as our consultants to support us. And really the role of the plan is, again, to identify developing regionally significant projects. And then, we're trying to figure out how that fits into our existing ranking process with ORI. And then, going forward, we're kind of in that in-between of, as we develop, we're also continuing ORI as an annual program. So we're learning as we go and trying to develop something that makes sense. But this is what included for the Central Region Plan. We had a survey out for about 2 months and received over 1,500 responses, both from residents within the Central Region as well as visitors. Our consultants, as well as some of our team, conducted a week-long site visit, visiting each county and meeting with, public land managers, some local community stakeholders, and just getting a sense of, what is on the ground. They also are bringing a lot of data to this plan, including just that regional asset inventory and then outdoor recreation business inventory. And then we conducted 6 county-based stakeholder meetings. So with each of the counties, we brought all the stakeholders that, as much as we could, diversify, representing each of the counties, all the different land management agencies, all of the different types of recreators, business owners, tourism folks. So it was really a robust initial phase of a community engagement. And then from that, now my clicker is not, can you go to, thanks. We have a project website that you can refer to, and the handout we provided is kind of the key takeaways from that survey. It was really interesting to just see the differences between what residents were experiencing versus what visitors. I guess it's not that surprising because most of the visitors go to Capitol Reef. Most of the residents avoid Capitol Reef. But along with that, they're creating these county profiles that really highlight, those recreation assets, what the businesses are, what the communities are saying. So we have county profiles for each of the counties. And then we also are developing these types of maps just to, again, highlight those kind of high-level recreation assets within the region. I guess I'm going to go backwards here now. But just to give an idea, last year we were able to secure funding for our northern region as well as the southwest region. And so we'll be kicking those 2 long-range regional plans off this year. And hopes to, again, secure funding if the regions in Eastern and Wasatch Front get just as excited seeing this as an opportunity we'll secure funding for them, and then hopefully have the entire state planned, or have regional recreation plans for the entire state in by 2028. Any questions about that?
Thank you, Emily.
Yeah.
Appreciate it. Or does anybody on the commission have any questions for Emily? Any online? Nope. All right. Thank you. We'll go to Carly now.
Hi, everybody. My name is Carly Lansche. I'm the Trails and Planning Program Director with the Utah Division of Outdoor Recreation. I've been working to support this commission for the last almost 4 years, and it is such a wonderful time to come to these meetings and kind of use them as a reflection point as to where we were just 3 years ago, 4 years ago, when we became a newer division with our strategic plan, and now we're doing things that are somewhat revolutionary, if I might be so bold as to say that, and really help lead the way as the state of Utah with the first former Office of Outdoor Rec. So yeah, I just wanted to give a shout out to my colleagues as well for helping us push the needle in outdoor recreation in Utah. I am now going to talk about an exciting update about the North Wash boat ramp. I have a colleague online who's helped us support the project, and so he might come off of mute to add in as I go. But this commission, with the support of our staff, helped identify the North Wash boat ramp as a priority project a few years ago. This was still when the ORI process was being kind of incubated. And so it was an opportunity for us as staff to kind of cut our teeth in the project management and delivery side of the equation. So we are now launching into more planning, grant support, and then getting into the project management and delivery. So just to give a little bit of color and context, if you're not familiar, Cataract Canyon is Utah's little Grand Canyon, and this is the takeout for that section of the Colorado. It's a world-class whitewater and has been suffering at the takeout for many, many years. The Utah Guides and Outfitters have been advocating for stewardship and improved access for almost 20 years. The American Outdoors Association has elevated this nationally, and it's been a big project for us the last few years. And this is, I don't need to talk to every bullet here, but this just gives you a timeline of when we started to meet with the National Park Service to understand why we weren't being able to improve the access on this site. And this shows sort of our our lengthy coordination effort with Glen Canyon, and we're really as soon as we were able to provide funding through this commission and enter into an agreement with the Department of Interior, we were able to make some tangible progress, and more progress than there's been made in over 20 years. So here's a photo of the ramp at 5400 CFS, and then a congressional staff visit or site visit that we did back in 2024. Talking about the issues and trying to understand what we need to do to shake loose a solution here to improve access. Things really started to move forward quickly when we were able to enter into an agreement and secure funding here. So we went through engineering aspects last fall, geotechnical, and then a notice to proceed in full compliance package landed on our division desks back in March of this year. And so we've been able to hit the ground running. Jones and DeMille has been doing the construction or the design and engineering, and Brown Brothers Construction has done the actual work on site, and they've been fantastic. They're based out of Loa. And so here's a bird's eye view of the existing takeout in the construction area. Kendall, if you're online, do you want to chime in here?
Yeah. What are you looking for?
Oh, just if you want to talk about the site. And Kendall's been based out of Blanding, so he's been boots on the ground for us.
Yeah, no, it's been great. The Brown Brothers Construction got in and they moved dirt very quickly. The ramp is essentially finished, other than we are waiting for the surface mat, a concrete block mat to arrive from back east, and that's what we're waiting on. So the project is nearing completion. The contractors say that they'll need about a day or a day and a half of work once the matting arrives for them to be completely finished.
Thanks, Kendall. Here's that articulating block mat that Kendall was talking about here. It's supposed to really help provide a sustainable ramp solution to get back down to the water. And this is the reason why we are here today requesting additional funding to help support and cover the bases to wrap up and complete the project. Due to freight costs and that this is a material that's not locally sourced or a product that's not locally sourced, we've had to, the project cost has increased a little bit. You'll also see that there's, I think there's a handout at the front that kind of breaks down the costs. Due to some of the geotechnical complications on site, there's some added Jersey barrier just for added safety. Our boating program was able to contribute some funding for ongoing geotechnical monitoring to ensure that the site is safe and sustainable. And so we're here today to just request funding to help get the project over the finish line. Here's a photo from April, so last month. It's already May, if you can believe it. And we actually have a party that was getting out of the water here. And Kendall and I were able to meet with some of the guides and outfitters and the National Ability Center and some other folks to help kind of prep them on what to expect on the site when they're taking boats out. And one of the people said, you know what, we are so excited from National Ability Center. They said, we have not been able to do programming down Cataract Canyon because the boat ramp has been so terrible. And so this is the first time we're going to be able to start bringing that programming back. So that means veterans, people with mobility limitations are able to now access this river for the first time in a while. So really, really gratifying to hear about that. The project's almost done. And yeah, this was just a fun visual to look at where we were in 2023 when we first started kind of coordinated state support to help improve the access here, and now where we are right now until the delivery of the block mat. So we've got live project updates on our website if you're interested in following along. Another photo and the funding request. Happy to take any questions.
Just a quick note, there will be ribbon cutting June 4th. Obviously, anybody who wants to go and attend, you're welcome. But it's probably going to be in the news, just like a lot of the projects that this group has already approved in years past. The Colorado River Pathway that was just in the news last week with Governor and UDOT and their project to connect there. Forest Road 85 up American Fork Canyon was high profile in the news. So the work that this commission does is recognized by a lot of folks. But this one has been a long time coming, and not without some real tenacity from Carly and Kendall, and so well done.
Thank you. Yeah, we appreciate your updates on this. It's nice seeing the pictures and the progress that's being made. For government work, that's pretty quick, so it's pretty good.
Took us 20 years, but now that we have the green
once
light.
we got on it, it went pretty quick, right? So,
yep.
All right. Thank you. Do any commissioners have any questions for Carly? I think we'll get to that later on. Yeah, when we get to agenda item number 6.
Jason, if I could, number 2 is that the request on the back? It says additional boat ramp mat. And sorry if I missed this in your presentation, but did you change the project, like covering more ground, or is it just an increased costs?
It's increased cost due to complexities on the site. We actually did our best to try to shrink our constituents wanted a 30-foot wide ramp, and we had to shrink it down to about 16 feet just due to the site complexities. But there was still some overages with the freight and the material costs, and I think Kendall can help me out if I'm missing anything there.
Yeah, I mean, another effort that we made was the mat material is not going to cover the full 16-foot width of the travel area. It's only going to cover 10 feet down the middle, which everybody involved, the contractor, the engineer, Carly, myself, we feel like that's sufficient. for the traction and for the stability. But we've even gone that far to try to reduce the costs as much as we could.
Yeah, and I apologize. Yeah, you're right. We do need a motion at this point. I was reading the agenda wrong. So somebody would like to make a motion.
There's a question online too. Commissioner Taylor has his hand raised.
Oh, go ahead.
I don't have a question.
Commissioner.
I love this project, and I'm glad to see it going forward. We do a lot of good things in this commission, and I'm really pleased with this. Pleased that we're getting it done.
Thank you, Commissioner. Would anybody else like to have any questions, comments?
I have a question. So do we have, where will the additional funds come from? Will they come from the new fiscal year's ORI bucket of money, or?
They can come out of the prior fiscal year. So there was a little bit of a rollover from funding that kind of lapsed through. So I think we had a meeting with our finance manager. There was 3.5 that wasn't spent or had come back into the account. So I think we can utilize that from the last fiscal year, and everything else will roll into this upcoming cycle and fiscal year. Did that answer your question?
Yeah, that helps a lot, because it's one thing to be supportive in concept when you have a project overrun. It's another thing to figure out how we're paying for it.
Absolutely. You need to know those numbers. I appreciate that.
Great question, Mayor.
If I can follow up. So I appreciate, trying to make it affordable and stay within the budget, but is there a desire to get more resources to get the full 16 feet?
So that's a really excellent question. So one of the reasons why this has been a hang up and a project that hasn't come to fruition for over 20 years is because it's technically not an official asset as identified by the National Park Service. And so because of the hydrology in the canyon, they're wanting to actually make a more permanent, long time sustainable ramp upstream of where this site is. And so just because of the hydrology in the canyon, there could be a pretty significant rapid that forms just upstream, in which case that this site or this particular ramp that we've put state resources into might not be accessible. When that will happen, it's hard to say. We don't know. But because this is a key access point that kind of unlocks this regional guiding economy, an ecosystem there, it was important for the state to step in and be involved. So the Park Service is going to create a north height ramp that'll be more long-term, just upstream. So yeah, we wanted to keep it simple and improve the access for the time being. We are not sure exactly the timing on that other ramp. So good question.
Any other questions, or we'll look for a motion?
I'm prepared to make a motion that we approve funding the additional cost for the boat ramp of $140,200.
Okay.
I'll second that.
We have a second. Thank you. The motion is that we approve the funding request to cover the remainder of the project costs for the Northwash boat ramp of $140,200. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. And those against? Okay, I rule that passes unanimously.
Thank you for your support of the project. I'm excited to see you all again in the fall with hopefully some more good updates.
Okay, thank you.
Just one thing on that. I hope they have a video so we can watch people back down that.
Yeah.
There's already a video on YouTube of someone that was so excited about the project that they filmed the construction.
Those are fun videos to watch, people trying to back down that don't know how to back down.
Hence the Jersey barrier, which thank you for funding the Jersey barrier.
There we go. Yeah, if you can find that YouTube video and send it out to us.
Absolutely.
All right, thank you. So we have that. We're going to go to agenda item 6B. Patrick Morrison again. Thanks, Patrick.
It's me again. So I'm just going to introduce our two commissioners here to present. Make sure I'm on the right slide. So you may remember, I think it was in the January meeting last year, you granted me some authority for contract modifications. I believe it was 10% of the award up to 20,000, scope of work changes that didn't, really alter what the project was awarded for, and then like budget line items that don't, necessarily change any total award. This one, I think is an example of what I feel I wanted to bring them in to make the formal request for your approval. I felt this one exceeded my authority. So just a little background, this was award, not this most recent cycle, but the 24-25 year for the Mud Springs Trail System Phase 2. Phase 1 has been great. It got awards from our Recreational Trails Program and our Utah Outdoor Recreation Grant. So this was going to be the continuation of that. I don't want to kind of step on the presentation, and they drove all the way down here to present, but more just kind of want to introduce Commissioner Winfield from Grant County, Commissioner Maughan from San Juan County. This has been a great partnership between the two counties, and I guess I'll just kind of let you take it away. So this is just a scope of work adjustment. This is not a funding adjustment, but just here for your approval. So please take it away.
We might fight over who gets the clicker.
All right. Will you guys introduce yourself and tell us who you represent as well as you get started?
Sure.
Thank you.
I'm Commissioner Lori Maughan, and I represent San Juan County.
And I'm Commissioner Bill Winfield, and I represent Grand County. Before we get started, I would like to thank you for that North Wash boat ramp, because that industry that you were talking about, that's our counties. Right, so that's huge for the boating community, and I know my Commissioner Martinez, fellow commissioner, has worked on that long and hard for years, so we're very excited even to see the YouTube videos of somebody backing down it.
And actually, I was there a couple months ago. Commissioner Martinez and I went down there and said, yeah, what a need. So to see those pictures now, it's great, so thank you as well.
Yeah, so this Mud Spring system that started there, the Phase 1 has been completed, other than just a little tiny portion, which will be completed this year before the NICA races start. The problem that existed is after Phase 1 was built, they hadn't put a whole lot of thought or had a construction manager or anybody involved. And the road system to get into this, which will handle up to, I'm told, 5,000 to 10,000 people, will come to these NICA events, these high school races. That was kind of left out of the plan. So what we're trying to do is pivot and take money from Phase 2 that would enlarge the trail system and be able to use that to build the road and the parking lots. And just for a little bit of I don't know what I'm trying to say here. To show you the size of those parking lots, a football field is very close to an acre. And so we have 15 acres that we have to prepare in parking alone. And it's out in basically, it isn't a sand dune because it's growing sagebrush and tumbleweeds. But we've got to prep that land and then put a base down for all these people to come in and be able to participate in these races. And so there's an pretty extensive amount of money that's going to have to go into the infrastructure to open this up. And a lot of the costs are borne by the two counties. We're doing as much in kind as we possibly can with our road departments. Todd Adair from San Juan County and Cody McKinney from Grand County are participating in those efforts. Where the expense is coming in is the surface that's needed to put down. It's an extremely clay area out there, sandy clay, and so it's going to require a rock subbase as well as then a road base on top of that. We've also collaborated quite a bit. Feel free, don't let me do all the talking, with UDOT, who's helping us with the majority of the road work. Not all of it. The in-kind is coming from the counties, but they are also helping with the surface on the road itself. And so we've worked with Jared Beard and Dan Hinckley, mostly the two of them. I know there's a few others that have been involved, but.
So the other problem we have is when you, in San Juan County, if you're coming south and headed north, there's an area called Blue Hill, and you descend down and then you turn to get into the access in that Mud Springs area. And it's just very, very dangerous, and UDOT has approached us several times about shutting that ingress into that. So the the reason for moving this road is to move it further down for safety. It's more cost effective to move that down further than to do a turning lane for them. So that's another thing we've been working on, is trying to get this access better. And, oh, yep, there's our slide, and you can see that. When you come in, if I could, yep, right there.
Here's the current access, that's the danger point. And what we're ending up doing is coming clear down to this cross section road here. And the black hashtags is all the new road being built in there.
So when you're trying to turn right, those trucks are what's on your tail basically, and it's really difficult to make a turn right, and then you're slowing everyone down behind. So it's like we said, it's a dangerous access to come into. So that's hence the change of the road.
So we're basically here just asking you to allow us to divert the Phase 2 funds, and it's possible that we don't use all of them. Whatever isn't used up will then go back towards Phase 2 in the future there. But currently what we have is some world-class NICA race courses that we don't have access to get people safely into. And so that's what our ask is today, is to be able to use funds that you've already approved, but to use them towards the infrastructure that'll be required there.
Any questions?
I don't have a question, Mr. Chairman, but I help coach a local mountain bike team, and so I'm familiar with the NICA races and the vast amount of people that a NICA race puts out for one of these races, which is both a blessing to a community when the mountain bike community descends to buy stuff in your area and use hotel rooms and all of those things, but also it's a lot of people that show up all at once to get to these areas, and so I can absolutely understand how it would back up a highway with a lot of vehicles coming from all different parts of the state to attend the races based on the regions. And I'm sure you're hosting multiple weekends in a row as well, because that's usually the goal of a NICA facility. So that would mean that you'd have multiple weekends throughout the fall season where you are experiencing those same safety issues. So would just want to validate that, having been to many NICA races, that you travel in a pretty big pack.
That's what we hear.
With a lot of equipment.
Yes.
And we currently have 2 NICA races scheduled for this fall at this place. So
I think I'll be at one of them.
Okay.
Oh, great. Join us.
All right. Any other questions? Natalie?
Yeah. Just a question about the funds you're redirecting from Phase 2. What won't be done as a result of that? Is it the additional trails that would have been built during the Phase 2 phase?
So we'll just have to reapply to get that expansion of the Phase 2 trails. But Phase 1 the trail system for Phase 1 does us no good if we don't have the infrastructure in. So, yes.
Yeah, and it seems like you just need that critical access point again to be able to have them access those areas and those trails, especially for the NICA races, as Commissioner Bradshaw mentioned.
Maybe I'm not going backwards. I was just going to show you, but that cutoff that's in there currently, UDOT wants to close that down completely because it is such an unsafe access there for either direction to get into that. So that little portion will eventually be closed off right at the highway so that people can't get in and out of there.
And Phase 1 in its current completion already allows for NICA to come in without,
well,
the trail system itself is built up enough to allow for a NICA race course.
Yes, the trail system is completed, but we just we can't park people in those parking lots without the infrastructure in.
Thank you. Yeah, I had kind of similar question, and I'm glad she asked it. I'm just pulling up the code here on what is approved, because we've had a lot of people, I believe in the past, we've had a lot of people saying, hey, we need roads, and it's like, okay, this isn't a road thing, but I just want to clarify for the commission what the code says is a recreational infrastructure project. And I think this would qualify, but just let's get it on record here. So, recreational infrastructure project means an undertaking to build, improve, or restore an approved facility, installation, or natural feature needed for the public to access and enjoy the state's outdoors. So, recreational infrastructure project may include the establishment, construction, or renovation of a trail infrastructure, or a trail facility, construction of a project or restoration of a water body for a water-related outdoor recreational activity, development of a project for a wildlife watching opportunity, including bird watching, development of a project that provides a winter recreation amenity, construction or improvement of a community park that has an amenity for outdoor recreation, and construction or improvement of a naturalistic and accessible playground. So I don't.
Furthermore.
Yeah, go ahead.
What section is that?
It's this one.
Go on.
Yeah.
78.
79
So,
8-2.
and more specifically in the Outdoor Adventure Fund, very explicitly in 51, 9, 902, subject to appropriation, the money from the account may be used for construction, upgrades, replacement, acquisition, and then E, under 3E, providing access from state highways. So pretty clear.
So yeah, we're I think we're good.
Thank you, Patrick.
Yeah. So at this point, are there any other questions or comments? All right. At this point, we'll look for a motion. If somebody would like to make that one. Natalie, go ahead.
Yeah, I'd be happy to make a motion to approve the Mud Springs Trail System Phase 2 scope change.
Okay. Do we have a second?
Mr. Chair, I'd second.
All right.
Multiple seconds.
Mr. Taylor, thank you for the second. All right. The motion is that we approve the Phase 2 scope change for the Mud Springs Trail System. All in favor say aye.
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 And those against? All right. I rule that pass unanimously. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay.
Your mic's off.
I just turned it off myself. Okay. So, well, thank you for joining our make meeting. Before we close the meeting, I've been told to make sure that everyone remembers to mark their calendars for our second and potentially final Outdoor Adventure Commission meeting for ORI project approval on Monday, November 16th from 2 to 5 p.m. So, all right, we'll be looking for one final motion. All right, motion to adjourn. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Thank you.
Aye.
Aye.
We are adjourned. Thank you.